Okay, the project we'll be working on today is the Mars Rover project, and we'll be using the Sam Labs Classroom Kit. The two hardware blocks we'll be using are the DC motors. Just focus a little. There we go. And I have paired them under the sleeping blocks with the virtual DC motors as well. Now all of these are vehicles, and that's what they have in common with our Mars Rover, which is also a vehicle. And our objective today is going to be to make our Mars Rover go forward, go back, turn left, and turn right. So we're going to have to figure out how to do that as we progress further. Okay, the first thing that you're going to do is turn on your two DC motor blocks and pair them with two DC motor virtual blocks that are in the sleeping blocks menu. Once you have paired them, you're going to pull out two virtual switch blocks, and they are located under behaviors. And then if you go to the My iPad menu, you will find the key press. I want you to pull three of them out there. So once you have this set up and your blocks are paired, I would like you to give me a thumbs up. The first thing I'm going to do is wire that middle key press to the two DC motors. I'd like you to do that and give me a thumbs up when you are done. The next thing I want you to do is wire the top and the bottom key press to the two switches. Once you have that done, we're going to change the settings on the switches. So if you tap on the switch, we're going to change it from no input to key press 0 on the top one. And then on the bottom one, I'm going to change it from no input to key press 1. And each time you're doing that, make sure that you click done when you're done. So now we are all wired. Once you have that set up, I want you to see if you can make the DC motor on the left move by itself, and then the DC motor on your right move by itself. Do not pick the hardware up off the floor. Let it sit on the floor and see if you can get it to move each DC motor individually. I'll give you some time to work on that. Give me a thumbs up when you have that done. Now, if you worked on that for a while and you experimented, you noticed that if you press the top and middle at the same time, the left motor is going to spin around. And if you press the middle and bottom at the same time, the middle and bottom key press at the same time, the right motor is going to spin around. If you weren't successful, try that now. Can you figure out how to get both motors to spin at the same time? I'll give you a moment. Give me a thumbs up when you're done. So, did you figure out that if you press all three at the same time, both motors spin? If you did, then you were successful. Let's move on. Next thing I'm going to do is use this yellow block here to attach my DC motors, and then I'll attach my wheels onto the axles of each DC motor. So what you are going to do is take a DC motor, and then you are going to press it down, and you will have to make sure that that white Lego part is not on the block. It can't go in there, it can't fit in there with the white Lego covering. And make sure that the axles are turned out. And I'm going to squeeze them together. And then the next thing that you are going to do is put the wheels on. So you'll see we have, this is the part that's going to go on the axle, okay? And you'll see the shape of the hole has to match up with the shape of the axle. So I'm going to do that now. Give me a moment. So this is what your prototype for your Mars rover before it's decorated. This is what it should look like. Notice that there are just 2 wheels on the back that are going to move our Mars rover forward and back, left and right if we're successful. So I'd like you to try and build your Mars rover now. I'll give you a second. Give me a thumbs up when your group is done. I want you to notice that it might be a little awkward and clumsy to use our setup as it is to control our Mars rover. So we're going to design a much simpler virtual circuit. But before I show you that, I want you to try out your controller right now that you've created with the key press and switches and DC motors, and see for yourself how it works. And then we'll discuss a better, more efficient way to create a car controller in your virtual circuits. So did you find it a little bit awkward to control your Mars rover this way? Well, let's try another way. So I want you to clean off your work plane so that all you have left are the 2 DC motors. Under the DC motor menu, I pulled out the car controller, and I want you to notice that if you tap on the car controller and then you open it up, we actually see a little icon of the car. We also see some directional arrows. So let me see if I can show this on my iPad. If I move back, I see the dot actually move back. If I move forward, I see the dot actually move forward. If I move right, I see the dot on the move right on the directional arrows, or left. You can also change the value here, but as it says, this value affects the sensitivity of the motors to the accelerometer. The greater the value, the greater the angle the tablet will need to be before the motor starts. So I am actually going to lift it up to about 40, so I'll have to have a real sharp angle because I don't want my controller to be super sensitive. So after you have done that, your challenge will be to see if you can control your Mars rover with your car controller to make it go forward, backward, left, and right. Give me a thumbs up when you're done.